Dave Slater here for the San Diego Railroad Museum. Wanted to tell you this morning about our steam locomotive project number 2353. We're at Campo, California, and that's 60 miles east of San Diego on Interstate 8. This is Larry Williams, and he's the project manager. And Larry, what have we got here this morning?
Well, we're working on the axle boxes for the pilot truck under the front of the locomotive. The locomotive, you see, is a 460, meaning that there's 4 wheels on the front truck and then 6 wheels under the main part of the locomotive carrying most of the weight. And these big boxes you see here sit down over the axles themselves, and it carries all of the weight. Well, in order to keep the axles square to the locomotive so it runs straight down the track, these things have to all be consistent and square over the axles. So we're putting shims and we're building these so that they're exactly square.
So these have to be remanufactured from drawings?
Yes, we're redoing a lot of these things, some of them from drawings, although there's not very many, but mostly we're looking at it and saying, well, that seems logical, and we're trying to. We figure that if we keep things logical and consistently square, we should be all right.
Absolutely. Well, tell me, what year is the locomotive and who made it?
This locomotive was built in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in 1912. It was actually set out on the erecting floor of the Baldwin Locomotive Works in August of 1912, and it was finished in October. Delivered here in California to the Southern Pacific Railroad in November of 1912, and it's been here in California ever since.
Well, someone told me not long ago that it actually ran on this line here. Is that correct?
It did. The Southern Pacific, you see, this San Diego and Arizona Railroad was built in partnership between the Southern Pacific and John Spreckles here in California, and specifically San Diego.
Sure.
And toward the end of the partnership, the Southern Pacific pretty well took control, and they subleased a lot of their locomotives onto the San Diego and Arizona, and this was one of them. It ran here from 1927 until 1939. Then just before World War II, the Southern Pacific pulled in a lot of its motive power to get ready for the war.
Well, was that what you call a mountain class locomotive, Larry?
No, this is classed as a 10-wheel. The mountain class is bigger and newer than this one. This design is considerably older than the mountain class.
Well, that's really interesting. How long has the project been underway?
Oh, longer than I like to think about.
Well,
I came to the project in 1988, and it had been underway for a couple of years then. So here we are now in 1993, and we have a completion date tentatively for November of 1994. So we're a year and some away from that at this point.
Isn't that the 75th anniversary of the Golden Spike?
It is, and we've made some big talk about being ready to run.
That's great.
So we're hoping.
Fantastic. Well, how many people do you have working on this with you?
Well, some days we'll have as high as 25 people here working. Other days there'll be 2 or 3 of us here working, but that's the thing we have to put up with, and we're all volunteers, so we do what we can do with everybody that's here.
Well, could you use more people in the project, or do you have too many now?
We have a need always, as all volunteer organizations do, for more people whenever we can get them.
What kind of talents do you need?
People who are interested. We don't need any specific talent.
In other words, you don't have to be a rocket scientist or a locomotive
Nope.
designer.
You just have to be interested in working hard and getting dirty
and so there's somebody that can show you what to do. You don't have to have any special talents. We have overnight sleeping facilities. We've got a big galley we'll show you later. And you could come out and spend a weekend, or some people take half of their vacation and they spend the week and they bring their motorhomes. You have a motorhome, right?
Yeah, I bring my motorhome up and I stay in it. So there's lots of facilities for staying as long as you want and working as long as you want.
Our number at the San Diego Railroad Museum in San Diego at the Santa Fe station is area code 619-595-3030. And what's your number, Larry?
My 619 area code again, 744-4845, and you can contact me. Or you can contact Richard Dick at, again, 619-276-2222.
276-2222, area code 619. So that's Richard Dick or Larry Williams. And if you can't reach either one of them, leave a message for them at our headquarters at the Santa Fe station, area code 619-595-3030. Do you have some other things that we could take a look at?
Sure, we can walk on back through here. We've been working on some of the spring mechanisms and the driving boxes. Come on back.
Let's take a look.
All these parts you see on the floor here basically came off the locomotive. They're hangers for the springs and the spring mechanism. And what we've done is we've cleaned them with big needle guns, air-driven needle guns, and we have replaced and repaired any of the things that needed to be and put new bushings in, and here's some of the old ones laying here, so that everything is going to be tight and square and true when we put it back together.
Could we see one of those fit in that hole?
Sure. You see these big pins that we work with slide into the holes, and in between here are hangers that hold the springs, and there's 10 great big bundles of springs that sit under the locomotive to hold it and give it a little bit of stability as it goes along.
What would you say the average speed of the locomotive over the road is on the main line in
Well,
passenger service?
In passenger service, this was originally designed as a passenger service locomotive. It operated up in the San Francisco area and in the Los Angeles area. And in commuter service, commonly 40, 50 miles an hour between stops on the commuter line.
Well, that's pretty good speed, you know.
Yeah. This locomotive has 63-inch drivers, which is basically a large driver for passenger service type.
Is that what you call a high step and gas?
That's a high stepper.
Why do they call it?
Because of the height and since you have the big wheel, you get a lot of movement of the side arms, the driving rods, and so it's a big step.
So the bigger the wheel, the less RPM at the axle, but more RPM at the end of the tire, so to speak, and you really get rolling along. Hear
Yeah.
that old clickety-clack. How many of these locomotives would you say are left in the United States?
This specific locomotive, there's only 2. Southern Pacific bought, in this lot that they bought from Baldwin, they bought 10 of these locomotives.
10.
2353 was the first of those 10, and 2355 survives in a park over in Mesa, Arizona.
Doesn't run.
No, doesn't run. It's climbed all over by kids, and
Well,
it's
that's
probably one of the better uses of it.
That's true. So this, in fact, will be the only of the 2300 series that'll be running.
Yes, this will be the only one of the series that will be running.
By golly, that's really neat.
Yeah.
Really neat. Wouldn't you like to come out and get involved in something like this? Just for a weekend, just to be able to tell your grandchildren that you were? Because this isn't for today, you know. This is for next decade and the decade after that, because generally a locomotive that is restored and rebuilt from a basket case, would you say?
Yeah.
With proper maintenance can last indefinitely. Like anything else, if you keep proper maintenance up, it'll be there for generations to come. And I bet you you'd like to get involved in that. Let's take a look at some of the other things too.
Okay.
Now what's this?
This is the frame, the main frame that holds the pilot wheels together.
What's a pilot wheel? Is that how you steer it?
Right. Actually, it is the way it steers. You don't have a steering wheel and you can't turn it.
Not like Mark Twain.
Right. But on a locomotive, any kind of a rail locomotive or anything else that runs on the rail tells it where to go.
Right.
And since this is the pilot out in front of the locomotive, when this big mechanism comes into a curve, the wheels on this mechanism, this big pilot truck, begin to follow the curve around, and that then will lead the rest of the locomotive around the turn. Now, some of what we started with over there were the boxes, and they fit down underneath and hold the axles exactly square and exactly in the front of the locomotive here.
So this pilot apparatus will guide the driving wheels around a curve and through
Right.
switch frogs and all.
When
and
it-
if you didn't have that, you couldn't go very fast.
No. The very small locomotives with no pilot truck and no trailing truck, that was primarily their duty was around the switching yards, and they never got out where there was any speed.
Oh no, because
You
they,
see, the movement of this pilot truck is transmitted. There's a big platform that sits up here, and that transmits into the front of the locomotive, and it actually drags the front of the locomotive sideways when it senses a turn.
so you've got small roller wheels underneath that,
Yeah,
maybe called pony trucks.
yeah.
But that's another story. Well, let
you-
me ask you this. If a person got interested, Larry, and they came out here and they worked hard and diligently and you were pleased with their work, is there any way that they could learn the machinations and eventually maybe fire it or possibly be allowed to run the locomotive one day if they were
Sure.
really good?
Lots of possibility. We are at this point in time running a basic steam locomotive training class, and it meets the first and third Saturdays and the first and third Sundays of every month, and we'll be doing that for the rest of the year. And then we will go into a class specifically designed to learn how to be a fireman on the steam locomotives.
What does that cost?
There's no cost.
Really?
Except
Something
for
for nothing.
labor, labor and work. That's all
Everything
it
costs something, but don't you think it's worthwhile? Can you feature yourself with your arm on the handrest and your other hand on the throttle at speed over the high iron of a steam locomotive? You can do this.
It only takes time and work. And
How did you learn to do all this?
I came here just like everybody else. I didn't know anything about it other than I thought they were interested.
Yeah.
And after a while, you get involved and you learn a little. And I read a lot. I read a lot of the old books from the 1900s and even back into the 1800s that explain the theory of how they were designed and why they were done the way they're done. So between the books and what I learned talking to the old timers that worked on the railroad, I think I learned enough to do a little of it.
That's neat. And what do you do for a living, Larry?
I am a college professor of business.
Well, so teaching kind of comes naturally to you.
Comes natural, so I teach the class. Only because I'm a teacher, I think, and nobody else wants to get up in front of the group and talk. So it's easy for
Well,
me.
you have to be vaccinated with a Victrola needle to really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Do you have some other goodies that we could look at?
We can go outside and look at the main locomotive itself. Why don't we do that?
Okay, let's ease on out the door here, and we'll meet you over at the locomotive. Come on.
We're back outside next to the locomotive. This is the cab that we've removed from the locomotive. You've been looking at the numbers that appear on the side of it, the 2353, that's the locomotive number. You know, Dave, it's interesting, we do a lot of historical research as we do this. You see the topmost numbers here are in yellow. Well, that was put on when the locomotive went into the fairgrounds in 1957 when it was retired.
Right.
And it was put on for public show,
Sure.
but the original one never looked that way.
No.
What it really looked like is down here. We actually sanded very carefully down through 4 different sets of numbers here, and you can see the outline here of the first number sequence that was put on this locomotive in 1912 when it was built in Philadelphia.
Would you call this industrial archaeology?
It's the word for it, yeah.
And
yeah.
is this not railroad Roman style? Is that what you call it?
Yeah, the style of lettering is consistent throughout all of Southern Pacific's sequences. I don't know, is it still carried over today on the Southern Pacific equipment?
I do believe it is. So
Yeah.
in other words, if you saw a piece of SP equipment, you would recognize it before you saw the name herald by the numbers and the shape of the numbers, which is really important. And once you get into the lore of the railroads, and stick with us because we're going to show you a few things here, you'll learn a lot about that kind of thing. And some of you out there watching us may already know some of it, but if we can just teach you one thing here today, we'll show you the rest when you come to Campo.
Good idea. Let's touch on a couple of more things down here in the numbering. Notice this T31 down here. The T31 is the class of locomotive. The T31 class is the end of a sequence of classes. It started with class 28, T28, and then class T29, and finally class T31. There was, I think, very few of these built after this locomotive was built. This style of locomotive was replaced by the mountain styles and the Pacific styles and more modern styling with more wheels, by the way, and more weight.
Was this a special order designed for the Southern Pacific based on their needs and
Yes,
their road at that
yes,
time?
it was. They were needing rather fast passenger locomotives for the short service in the Bay Area, and this is where it came from.
You have to haul the
Now,
schedule.
The other number down here, the 162, that indicates the weight of the locomotive on the driving wheels. That's 162,000 pounds of weight on the driving wheels when it's dry before you put water in the boiler.
Well, that's a lot of weight.
It is. The total weight of the locomotive when it's ready to run is something around 208,000 pounds, or 104 tons.
Yeah.
And that's a medium-sized locomotive.
104 tons. You step on the brake and what happens? Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see somebody here. What's your name?
Jim
Jim what?
Wilson.
Jim Wilson. I'm Dave Slater. And tell us, how long have you been involved in the 2353 project, and how did you hear about it?
Oh, about 2 months. I got a flyer in the mail. I've gone on excursions with the trains before and got a flyer offering the class, so came up and signed up for it.
And where do you live, Jim?
In La Mesa.
La Mesa. That's not too far from here, midway between San Diego and Campo, I dare say 30 miles west of here. Well, that's really neat. And do you think you've learned anything since
Oh,
you've
yeah.
been here?
It's a constant learning experience.
Yeah.
I just learned something when he was explaining the numbers and stuff. We hadn't got to that part in the class yet. So.
Well, we thought we would hit some of the highlights for our folks out there in TV land, because a lot of times they like to get to the good part, and then we'll talk to some of the other things. And I see some wheels and a frame over there, and it looks like maybe a steam chest. What is that stuff over there, Larry?
Why don't we go on down here and we'll see the actual locomotive itself, and I'll show you those pilot truck wheels that we were talking about in the shop a minute ago. So come on, let's go on down here a little bit.
All right.
Come on, Jim.
What's this, Larry?
Well, these are those wheels that go on that pilot truck we were looking at inside.
Oh.
The frame we were looking at lays right up across the top, and then those big boxes slide down across the axles, and the whole thing rolls along out in front of the locomotive and guides the locomotive in and out of the turns.
Uh-huh.
These wheels are about 28 to 29 inches in diameter, and they're fairly small in relation to the rest of the locomotive wheels.
Well, that's why they call them pony trucks, I
Yeah,
guess.
pony trucks gives it a good idea. That's it.
And did you have to do anything to these, or just...
No, these came to us in pretty good shape. They've been turned, they have plenty of flange on the edges, there's
of
lots
meat on
of
the
tire
tire.
wear on there. So those are probably good for the rest of the life of this locomotive, which when we finish with it will be another 100 years.
I would say.
It's
Well,
already 80-some years old, so.
So when you go to Baldwin, you get a good deal. It's good for at least 100 years after a major overhaul.
Yeah. Why don't we go on over here a little bit further and take a look at the locomotive and the frame itself. We've saved the best for last. Now, it doesn't look much like a locomotive at this point because we've got so much of it taken off to work on. For example, normally you associate a locomotive, a steam locomotive, by having a boiler up there, and there's no boiler here, as you can see.
Oh, you didn't get one with it?
Right. We got the cheap cut down version.
Oh.
No, actually, we took the boiler off in the summer of 1993, and we sent it to Fraser Boiler Works down in San Diego, where it's been ever since, about a year now. And they have taken it apart and are putting it back together and welding it up. And it will come back here to Campo and be completely ready to run when it comes back. So, meantime, we've had to work with the frame and the driving wheels, and so that's why it's a little bare up there right now. Very seldom will you get a chance to see a steam locomotive in this condition.
Well, it's just like the back shops years ago.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
neat. Really neat. And what's this stuff here?
Well, this is the real heart of the thing.
That's
You
the
have-
engine, then, huh?
Yeah, this is the engine itself. You have a valve up here which controls the steam coming and going through the cylinders here. And the cylinders, there's a big piston in there and a piston rod that connects to the drive wheels.
So rings and all that?
Rings and all that, just like any other piston or any other engine. It's got to have a source
I
of
wonder,
power.
if I could just talk with our director back there, can we get our camera to dolly around this way so that we can peek inside the cylinder? Is that doable? Okay. Look at that. Isn't that something? Now that's where the horsepower comes from. A lot of people thought somehow it came from the wheels, but it originates here.
The steam comes in from the piston or from the boiler up above, and it comes through this valve here, and you can see the ports in here. This is a entry port for steam as it comes into the locomotive, and the steam will be coming in here, and it'll be pushing the piston that way, and on the other end there's another set of ports that will push the piston this way.
Isn't that neat?
The diameter of the cylinder itself is 22 inches and the stroke is 28 inches long.
28 inches. And so how many horsepower do you think that might transmit to?
Well, let's see. I've not worked it down to horsepower,
Well,
but
just roughly off the top of your head.
they measure the effort of a locomotive in terms of tractive effort in thousands of pounds of pulling effort.
On the main driving
On the
wheels
main
here.
wheels. And this locomotive can pull 38,000 pounds of tractive effort and start moving a train.
That's a lot of horsepower.
From the piston here, it moves through a rod and goes down here, and we'll just sort of move back here. These are the main driving wheels. And the main power is transmitted into the wheels through this center one here, and these big rods go around and around, and when the piston is hit with steam, it forces that to turn, and that's where all of that 38,000 pounds of effort comes in.
And then what's this here?
This is a counterweight, you see. All of this steel down here, all of these great big rods have a great deal of weight to them. And so you offset that weight by putting weight on the other side of the wheel so that it runs in a balanced condition and doesn't
just like your car,
vibrate.
it's got to be balanced.
Right.
And this is the tire here?
Yeah, the outside of this is a removable tire. Again, we're fairly lucky in that Southern Pacific had recently reworked this locomotive in the Los Angeles shops before it retired. So the tires are in good condition, and again, there's a lot of meat on them, and there's a good flange here to hold it on the rail from dropping off.
And then what's this eccentric crank here?
This is how you transmit the motion of the wheel into controlling the valve action, which controls the steam action. And so this really is the key timing element. Any of you out there that work with cars, you know, you have a camshaft to control the pistons and the power in a car. This is basically the camshaft for a steam locomotive right here.
So that's operated from a control in the engineer's cab.
Yeah, the engineer has a lever that controls the steam inlet. Well, he has two levers. He has a throttle to control the volume, and he has what's called a Johnson bar or a power reverser to control how much and when, and whether it's going to go forward or backward, and how fast it's going to go forward or backward.
And the power reverser was a relatively new invention at the time this locomotive was built. Prior to that, you had the old Johnson bar. You had to kick into the corner.
Bar you had to put. In fact, this locomotive came from Baldwin with a Johnson bar. It did not receive a power reverser, an air-actuated power reverser, until about 1935 or something in that time period.
So it just meant that the engineers would last a lot longer if they put a power reverser
without dying of a bad back and a hernia from hauling the levers around. Yeah.
Well, that is really neat. And so you figure that this will be ready by November, early November of '94? That's not very long.
We're hoping to build a fire in it for the first time in the summer and fall of 1994 and be operating so that we have shakedown operations and take the bugs out of it. And we do want to go to San Diego. We want to take it down the hill to San Diego and operate that train in 1994.
I'm sure you will. With determination like you've seen here, this is going to happen. We can use just a lot more people, just a few hours a month. That's all we ask. Or if you want to come down and throw in with us full time, you can jump in with all 4 feet.
We have a working crew during the summer and fall months that works on Thursdays and Fridays even for people that are retired and don't have to worry about making a living and having that interfere with your railroading.
Distractions, sure, I understand that. And so that means that if you were retired, especially if you got some time you'd like to spend, whether you know anything about this or not, come on out. We've got a college professor here and other people on the crew that'd be happy to show you what's what and how to put things together. And there's a quality assurance team here in this project. So the things are inspected at least 3 times before they go on the locomotive, and everything will be in accordance with the Federal Railroad Administration's inspections, and it'll be safe, a lot of fun. And let's take a look at the rest of what's this stuff up here, Larry.
Well, up on top here, of course, you have to have some place for the engineer and the fireman and the rest of the crew. And so this is the basic bottom of the thing, I guess you could call it. This is the crew deck.
Boy, there's a lot of plumbing here. It looks like a real plumber's paradise.
Most of that is air lines for the brakes. You have to have, on a locomotive, you have to have 2 sets of brakes, really. You have to have brakes for the locomotive, and then you have to have brakes for the train. And so the air lines get rather complicated.
And so I suppose there's valves and everything up there.
Yeah, and all of them, as Dave was pointing out a minute ago, all of the valves and all of the things that we do have to be certified and work with and under Federal Railroad Administration. So everything that we do of a real critical safety nature, like the boiler and the pressures and the safety mechanisms in the boiler and the brakes, all of those things are specifically inspected and certified to be properly done.
So it's going to be a safe operation. Everything's going to be in accordance with all the existing laws and regulations, and I'll tell you, they're about this thick, but we're going to comply with each and every one of them. And it's going to be a good time, a safe time, and we need you to come out and work. Remember those telephone numbers. I'll put it on the screen again before we quit. And is this the fuel bunker, or what is this?
Yeah, let's go further back even yet.
Is that how you hook it to the locomotive?
There's big drawbars in here that hook the tender to the locomotive. This is the source of power and water. If you're going to run any kind of an engine, you got to have fuel. And so up in the square section here is where we store the fuel. We can carry about 2,200 gallons of fuel.
What do you use for fuel?
We use a very heavy version of diesel fuel. It's called number 5 fuel, and it's very, very heavy and very dark. And we heat it and throw it in there under steam pressure and under steam temperature, and it burns very hot.
So without the warming of the fuel, it would just sit there but like a big clob and wouldn't move at all. So you have to, I guess, warm it up to lower the viscosity so it'll flow.
Yeah, and then we blast it in there under steam pressure so that it vaporizes with the steam.
Oh, it's sort of like an atomized, injected type
and it
thing.
goes in and burns very hot then when you get it.
No kidding.
We can get temperatures in the firebox with this kind of fuel of upwards of 1,1800 degrees very easily. So
Boy,
it's very hot.
You make pizza at that temperature.
Now the other part of this tender here, the round part, that's the water storage.
You still have to boil water to make steam, I guess.
That's right. You got to boil water to make steam. And we use, in a locomotive like this, pulling a train load of people, you're going to run through about 40 or 50 gallons of water every hour, just chugging around.
So generally, Larry, what would you say the distance of the water in this tender would take you before you had to pull up under a plug? We call those a plug, you know, that big overhead spout. And the fireman gets up there and pulls the cord, and it's not aimed right, and he gets absolutely soaked. Remember that?
Yeah. Well, there's enough water here. This tank carries 12,000 gallons of water.
So could you get to San Diego without having to stop?
Oh, yes. We could go to San Diego and probably quite a ways beyond if we were conservative with our water. Yeah, it'll go quite a ways.
Well, is that why they called them hogs in the old days? Is because some of them burned a lot more water?
Some of them burned a lot more water, and some of them burned a lot more fuel, and so the hog was part of the problem. Yeah. The railroads, of course, had to operate with an eye on the bottom line profit.
Well, sure, it's got to make money.
You got to run at the efficiency, and so if you made a lot of smoke and wasted a lot of fuel, somebody was going to be all over you for ruining their bottom line.
Time off without pay. And let's see, you also have sand, and where is that stored? To put under the wheels in case of slippage and that sort of thing?
Yeah, there's two usages of sand on a locomotive. One goes under the wheels, and if you get the slipping, or if you get slippery rail, or if you get water on it or anything, you blow some sand under those big driving wheels to get traction. That's one usage. Yeah, in a steam locomotive, the other use is that you throw it into the firebox and allow the fire to drag the sand through the firebox, and it scrapes out all of the accumulated soot. And so we carry a big box of sand to do that. Why don't you come on over here and we'll take a look at the sandbox, and you can meet Jim again.
Hi, I'm Jim Wilson, and this is one of the first projects I did when I got here. This sandbox, which mounts on the front of the tender, supplies sand to clean out the flues in the boiler, was rusted real bad. The back of it was all burned out, and the lid was missing, so we fabricated a new lid, and we wanted to keep it looking original, so we fabricated some hinges to match one of the other old boxes that are sitting around here.
Did you put these rivets in here, Jim?
Yeah, these aren't really rivets, they're carriage bolts.
Oh, I was just going to ask you if that was hot rivets and you had a catch basket and all that sort of thing like they used to do.
Sort of simulated, but we wanted to keep the engine looking authentic and everything.
Well, that looks good. What's this step here for?
Well, because it mounts up on the front of the tender there, you need a step to get up on top.
Oh, I see.
the water in.
And so this sand is for the sand hoppers that go down under the wheels?
No, the sand out of this, I believe, is used to sand the flues in the
Oh,
boiler.
so that would go right
Yeah.
into the firebox.
And they have
then.
a scoop, a special scoop they use to scoop it out of there. That's why the lid's not too big.
Yeah, well, that's
And-
really good.
And they throw the sand, there's a draft caused, and when you open the fire door up a little bit,
Sucks it right in.
it sucks the sand right out of the scoop, and it sort of sandblasts the tubes going through the boiler, keeps them clean.
Is this a project that you had worked on, or is it something that someone else started, or is this your first project?
Well, I just kind of inherited. Somebody cut out the plates and stuff on
Uh-huh.
the back, and I could do a little welding and stuff, so they had me weld up the plates, and then the door was the next thing.
Well, that's great. This is really something. See, you can stand back and see what you've actually done here, and this will be a part of the locomotive from now on out. What is this thing over here, Jim?
That's the front of the locomotive.
Is that a cow catcher?
Yeah, of sorts.
Really? Well, we've got a lot of cows around here. Larry, how does this puppy work?
Well,
You pull this cord or what?
yeah, pull the cord here. This goes down on the front, and it is basically, and has been for many, many years, called a cow catcher. But
Keep animals and people from going under the wheels in case they didn't see the train coming, I guess.
this is about halfway through being ready to go. It's been needle gunned and cleaned. There's still some holes in it that'll have to be welded up, and then it will be finish coated with a shiny black enamel and fastened back way over there on the front of the locomotive, and it'll lead it all the way through.
And what did you say the entire completed locomotive with fuel and water weighs approximately?
Well, approximately, the locomotive itself is about 104 tons, and then
Yeah.
you add the weight of the tender and the weight of the water and the weight of the crew, which may be lightweight or heavyweight. But you're going to be up around, 125 to 150 tons, depending on the size of the tender and how much water you're carrying. So, you're up over 300,000 pounds, which is a medium-sized locomotive. Some of the real big ones got to be up over 1,000,000 pounds when they got
I've
that
seen
big.
film of things like that.
Yeah.
It's incredible to think about all that horsepower.
Yeah.
You said something about water earlier. What's the fuel consumption on this as far as water is concerned?
We forget it. We got to start that one over again. What did we decide we were going to say?
I think that what we decided we were going to say was it was 50 gallons an hour.
50 gallons an hour.
And you said
No, I said 50 gallons an hour. We
50
wanted
gallons
to
a
say
mile, I think is what you
50
said.
gallons a mile.
And what we
We
want-
better go check with Richard Dick on that.
What we said-
Tell you what, let's go inside and find the expert who was
Okay.
firing the locomotives way back in the 20s and 30s, and we'll ask him how much water and fuel it takes.
This fella that we're going to talk with next is retired from the Atchison, Topeka, and the woo-woo Santa Fe, and he fired locomotives like this. His name is Richard Dick. Let's take a walk in here and see if we can find him. Good morning, and here we are back into the car shop here, and I'm talking with Richard Dick. Earlier, I made a mistake. I said that he worked for the Atchison, Topeka, and the woo-woo Santa Fe. Forget all that. Be specific, say Southern Pacific. That's who we work for, and their wholly owned subsidiary, the San Diego and Arizona Eastern Railway, not railroad, railway. That denotes British creditors, but that's another story. What I wanted to ask you was, we were out here by the 2353, and Larry and I and Jim were talking, and we wanted to know about water consumption. And they said 50 gallons per mile. Is that about right, or is that maybe different than what it really is?
Actually, the 2300s will evaporate about, working hard on the grade, about 35 gallons a minute.
35 gallons a minute. So 12,000 gallons at 60 miles an hour would not take you very far, and that's why they call them hogs. Is that right?
Right. Of course, the 2353 was not a hog. It was basically for mainline passengers service back in, well, it was built in 1912, and it carried like the Golden State Limited, Sunset Limited, the Argonaut, so forth.
No kidding, the Sunset Limited.
And they hauled those probably until 1920s.
1920s.
And then there's the 2400s came along,
Uh-huh.
and then they were outdone by the 4300s, and the 4300s were outdone then about 1937 by the 4400.
I see. And so, just getting back to this for just a minute, that looked to me like a long-distance tender because it had the big, long tank on it.
Well, that has a 10,000-gallon tank. It originally came with 7,000 gallons.
Smaller. But is that what you call a long-distance tender or medium distance?
Well, this is, it's a good-sized tender for this engine.
How far mile-wise do you think you could make without having to stop being in danger of running out of water?
Well, for instance, if you took water at Tecate, you could go clear to, no problem going to Acumba. We always took water again to Acumba.
Going through the gorge there and all that. Acumba Hot Springs.
And then that would be good until Calexico.
Calexico.
And then they would take water again to Calexico, which would take them clear on the unit.
What span of miles do you think that might be between those division points? 30 miles, 50 miles?
I would have to guess back. We always, out of San Diego, we always stopped and took water at Redondo.
Redondo, huh?
And then always again at Tecate. And then,
That way you're always safe, you have enough.
But then if we had a heavy freight drag, for instance, and a 7,000-gallon tank, we'd always have to stop it here by Miller Creek, which was the old sugar, excuse me, what's the name of that little valley?
Spencer's Valley.
Well, it's Clover Flat.
Clover Flat.
They had a Clover Flat water tank there.
Uh-huh.
And if it was a 7,000-gallon tank, you'd always have to take water there. It would be a close.
So how many years did you work on this particular
10.
line right here?
10 years.
10 years. And in steam service, more or less with that kind of class of locomotive? Was it the 2300 series?
Well, we had 2300s and the hogs here.
Yeah. Now, a hog or a tea kettle, is that to be, are those synonymous terms or different altogether?
Well, a 10-wheeler, of course, is just 10 wheels, and a hog is
Like a freight locomotive?
right.
I see.
It's still, it has 10 wheels, but it's the wheel arrangement is different.
Okay, and so then people have said to me, well, that's an old tea kettle, and what that means is that maybe that locomotive is leaking and ready for overhaul, and it's got steam coming out here, steam coming out there. Is that about right?
Well, they had a lot of funny names for them. They always spoke of a passenger engine as a her.
Yeah.
Or
High stepping lady.
she is tall and she's long and she is tall.
Yes.
And then and had tall wheels for speed.
The taller the wheel, the more the speed.
And then, of course, the hog out here I think it's got a 54-inch driver. And it just gets right down and squats down. And
Plenty of power, but not much speed.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. You're going to like this. Well, we sure appreciate the fact that you took time out of your busy day. I know you're getting ready to mount this big machine here. What is this? A Fosdick something or other? It looks like a drill press. Is that what it is?
Big radial arm drill press.
And are you going to use this machine to make some of the parts over again for the 2353?
Yeah, we can do all kinds of things with it.
Now, is this electric or powered by steam or what?
It's all electric.
Ah, boy, it sure is big. And what's this hole in the floor over
That
there?
is the new footing for the Fosdick,
Uh-huh.
and hopefully that'll be poured, and the Fosdick will be in place within 3 weeks.
3 weeks. If we could get our director to have camera number 4 dolly around here, I'd like to look down in this hole. Can we do that? Isn't that something? How deep is this thing?
2 feet 9 inches.
And what's this metal stuff here?
That's the rebar to bind the concrete in place.
Looks like Schedule 50 rebar to me. And so that'll stabilize this in the concrete once it's in there.
That's right.
See, you need a lot of really big machines to overhaul these steam locomotives. No small, compact little things like we see. We pull our little Toyota Supra into the garage and they wheel out these little baby tools. But when you got a steam locomotive, you got to have big things like this. And pretty big people, too. Small people can help, too, but you're big in spirit, so to speak. Because the Iron Horse is one of the things that helped develop our country and open up the plains and the mountains. And in this case, we're on the mountain division of the San Diego and Arizona Railway. And that stretches from the city of San Diego to Placer City through Carrizo Gorge with the highest wooden railroad trestle in the world. And the last transcontinental railroad in the United States. So once again, I'm Dave Slater. This is the San Diego Railroad Museum. Please give us a call. We'd like to have you come out and see us and help us on project number 2353. Thanks for watching. Do you remember years ago laying in bed on a cold winter night, almost asleep, and you say to yourself, what's that noise I hear? It's such a comforting sound, I don't know. And all of a sudden you're quite wide awake and you realize that's the mournful moan of a steam whistle. Locomotive is blowing for the crossing. You can help make that come true again for yourself, your grandchildren, your neighbor kids, and for yourself. For yourself. What are those numbers again, Larry?
You can call the San Diego Railroad Museum in San Diego, or you can go visit them at the old Santa Fe Depot downtown at Kettner and Broadway. Phone number is 595-3030, or you can call me at 744-4845, or you can call Richard Dick if you want to really talk with him at 276-2222.
Now he can tell you some real stories because Richard Dick had been feeding the water and feeding the oil and sometimes leaning on the throttle. This is a lot of fun. You don't want to miss this. Give us a call.
I went down there and I was doing the shop return. I put it up in one of the pictures of the shop.